So what we're looking for is a change in the leaves. So the leaves which have been green all summer are starting to go yellow and starting to senesce, and that's all the assimilates going into the grain as the crop is starting to mature. And also what happens at the same stage is that the pods start to go from green through to a yellow colour and then through to a mature brown colour. You can see some of the pods there are starting to change colour, so you've got the bright greens and then that one's just started to change. Have matured to another stage, but you've still got the odd leaf on the plant and there's still a few green pods on the bush. In this case they're further down. Once the pods start to change colour and go through to that brown coloration, what you generally find is the leaves start falling off and then the stems start to mature and go brown, and then the crop is ready for harvest. So in these plants here, the crop has started to, has lost nearly all its leaves. There's still a green stem, but the majority of pods are brown. If the whole paddock was like this, it could be sprayed out with Reglan or glyphosate to prepare it for harvest. If you look down the whole plant, there are the occasional green pods, but sometimes you can't wait for everything, but the majority of those are ready to go. These plants here, they're ready for harvest. And you can see with the recent rain, there's a bit of fungal staining on the outside of the pods. There's a few black blotches. That generally doesn't impact on the grain unless it's been stung by insects. So we've got some 3 different stages here. So we've got a stage where the pods have gone to maximum pod fill and the plants are, I suppose, mature. The next stage here is yellow, and this is where you can start spraying with glyphosate. So the beans are actually no longer living on the plant itself for sustenance, and they're starting to dry down. And over here we've got some mature pods with some mature grain inside. So with these plants here that have reached physiological maturity, and that is the pod in grain is at maximum grain fill, when you try and open up the pod, you should be able to see this white layer on the inside of the pod, and it should separate from the grain quite easily. So in these particular cases, unfortunately, the grain's been stung by some pod-sucking insects, and as a result there's some yellow or brown spots on the grain, though this particular grain here is quite good. So this is obviously just at physiological maturity, and there's still a long way to go, and it can take 4 to 6 weeks from this point to get to harvest maturity. So these pods here, these have reached physiological maturity and they're actually drying down. You can see that the grain is starting to form and quite obvious and distinct compared to the earlier green pods. And this is this good stage for spraying with glyphosate if you need to do that to control weeds or desiccate the crop. There are again a few little stings here, but taken on the edge of a crop, it is sort of what is expected. But you can see here how the grain just pops out and actually looks like a soybean, just a big one at the moment. It's quite soft. From here it can still be 3 to 4 weeks away from harvest, just depending on exactly how the crop's maturing. But it is quite obvious at this stage that the grain is no longer looking at or relying on the plant to mature, and it's drying down, so it's in a nice phase there. So at this stage, this crop here is mature and ready for harvest. I'm unsure of the moisture content exactly, I haven't tested it, but I'd imagine looking at it and given that we've just come from a weekend of rain, it would be up around 16 or 17%. But these grains are ready to harvest. If the whole crop was like that, you could go in and take that crop right now. There's a little wrinkle and a split on the shell of the outer coating of this seed, and that's in response to that rainfall we've had over the weekend. The seeds swelled up on the rain and now it's drying back down with the sun that we had yesterday and so far today, and it just leaves a little crack in the skin. That's no problems, it's still able to be sold to the edible market like that, but it is just one of those little quirks of nature that we see quite often here on the coast, because we do get more showers and rain than the traditional grain growing areas when we're preparing for harvest.